The lower chamber of the Mexican Congress approved the constitutional reforms in regards to national sovereignty sent by President Claudia Sheinbaum. The Kremlin commented on Washington's proposal on a possible truce with Kiev. The pact reached between the U.S. and Israel over Gaza could collapse as Tel Aviv opposes direct communication between the White House and the Palestinian resistance. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. The lower chamber of the Mexican Congress approved on Tuesday the constitutional reforms in regards to national sovereignty sent by President Claudia Sheinbaum. The resolution, which was approved in particular with 327 votes in favor and 116 against, says the requirement of preventive jail time to the crime of terrorism, including arms trafficking. It also states that no foreign intervention will be allowed or tolerated under any circumstance. The legislators who defend the proposal ratify that it is not just any another reform, but an unprecedented advance that makes it clear that the country will not accept interventions, meddling, or any other act from abroad that is harmful to its integrity. The bill was then sent to state parliaments. Honduran President Xiomara Castro addressed the nation at the inauguration of the expansion of an electrical substation in Siguatepeque in the Comayagua department. During her speech, Castro emphasized her government's achievements, among them the health and safety projects and the focus on a more sustainable and qualitative energy, evidenced with the inauguration of the electrical substation, which will better the quality of life of nearby residents. In this context, the president touched on the recent primary polls in the country, congratulating both the Honduran people for the high turnout and the elected candidates, and urging politicians to respect the people and guarantee transparency on all instances of the electoral process.
Y quiero aprovechar esta oportunidad para
I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate, first of all, the high democratic level of the Honduran people,
del pueblo hondureño y especialmente de los ciudadanos
and especially the citizens who were waiting in those sectors for the ballot boxes to arrive to be able to exercise their right to vote.
llegar a las urnas y poder ejercer el sufragio. Es la felicitación.
Congratulations, because this shows that we as citizens, as a people, wish and want a civic celebration. We permanently long for democracy to be respected and for the will of the Honduran people to be respected at all times.
In the Cuban capital, Havana, experts from the National Statistics and Information Office presented the Cuba Observatory on Gender Equality to ambassadors and representatives of the European Union in the Caribbean island. At the gathering, which took place on Tuesday at the National Hotel, the office expert Anais Montaquin, together with the team of local observers on gender equality, presented the structure and details on function of the initiative. Montaquin explained that inputs from the platform, jointly developed with the Federation of Cuban Women and its Center for Women's Studies, have already been used for decision-making in various instances. The meeting sought to make the initiative known for potential users to benefit from its data in the formulation of public policies and scientific work.
In the National Women's Program, the indicators that we have here, the 33 indicators, serve as a basis for monitoring public policies where we are working. We have many challenges, and we think that every day, even with this type of events, with the exchanges we have, new contributions emerge and new paths towards which we can start to move.
The ambassador of the European Union to Cuba, Isabel Pedrosa, highlights the advances of the matter in Cuba.
Una tarea incompleta. It is an incomplete task. We can always be moving forward, and Cuba stands out for its progress in terms of the regulatory framework, creativity, women occupying outstanding positions in different areas. It is a task that is not finished, and it is always necessary to continue working, interpreting the figures, the names, to see where there is room for improvement.
On Tuesday, Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva held a phone call with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres concerning the organization of the Climate Change Conference COP30 that will take place in Para in November. The leaders' meeting is set to assess the progress of the Brazil-UN Alliance for Climate Ambition, in addition to advancing the development of targets. The conference will discuss ways to strengthen multilateralism to respond collectively to the challenge of climate change. In this regard, Guterres noted that more than 30 countries have been contacted and all are working to present their new climate change targets soon. We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The delegation of the Colombian government in dialogues with the guerrilla of the National Liberation Army, ELN, proposed a national congress in view of the crisis. From Bogotá, our colleague Hernán Tobar with the report.
The Colombian government at the dialogue table with the ELN insurgency proposes a national peace congress, convening different sectors, human rights and social organizations, and the international community, with the objective of jointly debating the guidelines for negotiation with the armed groups as a collective effort.
This is a space in which we want to participate in broad sectors of civil society, organizations, networks, platforms, social movements, institutions, political,
movimientos sociales, instituciones, sectores políticos, económicos, sociales que
economic and social sectors that are very concerned about peace in the country due to the crisis and the implementation of the 2016 peace agreement.
En materia de implementación del acuerdo de paz de 2016. Por la situación también crítica que viven
the critical situation that the dialogue tables are experiencing, the situation in many territories where the clashes of armed groups are causing serious damage to the civilian population.
Pues le causan un gravísimo daño a la población civil en particular.
It should be recalled that the peace talks with the ELN are broken after an incursion of this group in the Catatumbo region and confrontations with the dissidents of the former FARC that left several dead and displaced people, a scenario of violence that is being experienced in different regions of the country, including the paramilitary presence, for territorial control and income from illegal economies. In this context, the initiative was welcomed by some peasant organizations.
Efforts must be resumed for the implementation of the final peace agreement signed in 2016. And that guarantees are really generated for the reincorporation of the signatories with guarantees of security of life and permanence in the territories, and that this implementation can be given. Secondly, that the dialogues with the ELN can be resumed. And that there really is also a willingness of the counterpart to move forward precisely in the construction of peace for our country.
This cyclical conflict continues to claim the lives of social leaders and peace signatories, 48 of whom have been assassinated so far this year, in addition to the historic dispossession of land and inequality. For this reason, social organizations must insist on dialogue to overcome violence and social injustice, a demand they send to both the executive and the ELN.
Es una iniciativa necesaria, importante.
It is a necessary and important initiative because there is no other choice, both for civil society and for a government inclined to peace.
En vías y soluciones dialógicas
It is
negociadas
necessary to insist on negotiated dialogical ways and solutions to end the war and make a peace pact from a vision of complete peace. Particularly with the ELN, however, what is really required is political will.
Sin embargo, lo que realmente se requiere es voluntad política.
This initiative is scheduled to materialize on April 5th and will take place in the Colombian capital.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
On Tuesday, Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa announced a strategic alliance with businessman Eric Prince, the owner of the U.S. mercenary agency Blackwater, to fight narco-terrorism. With the action, Noboa opens the door to the concession of the monopoly of the use of force, exclusive to the state, to a private company that is also foreign. Even though Article 158 of the Constitution establishes that the agreement is an irregularity, the President will delegate the country's security to a company with a dark past responsible for massacres and human rights violations that led it to face international lawsuits. The head of state also relegates his military and police forces to the background and will give privileged security and defense information to foreign mercenaries. On Wednesday, the Kremlin made a statement on Washington's proposal on a possible truce with Kiev. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov assured that they are waiting for a report with details of the agreement, as promised by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. As the time comes, Moscow is reviewing the final statement of the meeting held in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, in which President Volodymyr Zelensky agreed to a 30-day truce with Russia, although he did not rule out the possibility of a video conference to be organized relatively quickly if necessary. He would prefer not to anticipate any events. And the Kremlin will not consent to Ukrainian decisions that put at risk citizens who identify themselves with Russian culture on the territory of Ukraine. Ahead of a possible peace deal with the Kiev regime, the Russian government ensured it would not accept resolutions that may affect or endanger the safety and life of citizens. Kremlin further noted that Ukrainian measures should not have been focused on just the territory, as these laws issued by its Zelensky administration were seeking to deprive citizens of their historical Russian roots. Moreover, the Russian Foreign Ministry stressed the importance of the land and the efforts of villagers to preserve their cultural identity. We now have our second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Venezuelan Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez posted the following in her social media. The Zelensky of the Caribbean persists in flagrantly violating international legality by unilaterally disposing of a sea pending to be delimited. His quarrelsome posture threatening Venezuela with obsolete hegemons only seeks to disturb the peace of our region. This sad character in the history of our Caribbean has only one legitimate option left: political negotiation within the framework of the Argyle mechanism. Venezuela will never renounce its historical rights over the Essequibo. The pact reached in Washington between President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over Gaza could collapse as Tel Aviv opposes direct communication between the White House and the Palestinian resistance. This Tuesday, the meeting in Qatar ended without agreement, while separate dialogues between Washington and Tel Aviv and Washington and Hamas are moving in different directions. Zionism questions the direct hostage negotiations between the White House and the resistance, while Washington leaves Tel Aviv out of key meetings. Adam Boehler, the White House envoy, affirms that Hamas is willing to reach new agreements, while the resistance reiterates that Israel continues to commit violations and war crimes against the Palestinian people. And Yemeni forces have resumed the naval blockade against the Israeli occupier, effectively launching the operation after the expiration of the deadline given to the genocidal regime to reopen the border crossings. Precisely, the leader of the Ansarullah movement, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, gave the mediators a deadline to allow the entry of humanitarian aid and to restore electricity to Gaza. As the call continues, from Wednesday, the naval blockade against Israel will be enforced in the Red Sea, the Arabian Sea, the Strait of Bab al-Mandab, and the Gulf of Aden, and will be maintained until the genocidal occupier meets the demands set in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And local authorities in the Gaza Strip warn of the intensification of the crisis as a result of the blockade imposed by the Israeli regime on the entry of humanitarian aid. The Union of Municipalities of Gaza says that after the order of the Israeli Minister of Energy and Infrastructure to cut the power supply to the Palestinian territory, the health system and the water supply were paralyzed due to the lack of energy in a desalination plant in Deir al-Balah. In this regard, the Palestinian government denounces that Israel is exposing the life of more than 25,000 patients to the impossibility of receiving the treatment they required. And a federal judge in New York on Monday blocked the deportation of Palestinian student Mahmoud Khalil. The recent Colombian college graduate was arrested by immigration officials over the weekend for his role in organizing the Gaza Solidarity protest in 2024. President Donald Trump celebrated the arrest, saying he was proud that it was made possible by his executive order. However, the order was overturned by a federal judge as the student has legal status. The arrest has caused widespread outrage and several demonstrations of support have taken place. U.S. President Donald Trump reversed on Tuesday his punitive tariff policies against Canada, grounded in the fact that Ontario province had surged the cost of power to several states in the neighboring country. The U.S. Senior Counselor for Trade and Manufacture, Peter Navarro, highlighted that the U.S. President reversed his decision to double tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum following a deal with Ontario Premier Doug Ford. The Canadian Authority confirmed that he had received a call from the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, with whom he agreed on abrogating price increase. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.